It's great to meet you. My name is Justin Massey. I founded RelayHawk several years ago. I was doing cybersecurity for call centers. My family's owned a call center for 49 years, so this industry is not new to me. Back in November timeframe, several of my call center customers said, "Hey, will you build AI agents that actually work for us?" So I pivoted really hard, really quickly. So these lessons learned will be taken directly from, well, the scars on my back from delivering voice agents to call centers that are outsourced. So each one of my customers has hundreds of customers themselves. Chat with me afterwards about sailing, running, traveling, coding, and banging your head against the keyboard when AI doesn't do what you want it to do. I'm not going to get that button right. Okay, I want to just get an understanding quickly the technical, like how many people are in AI and how many people are have defined a function call or a tool call in an LLM before. Okay, so just briefly, just so when we talk about things, you kind of understand what's going on. A function call in an LLM, if you wanted to say, I need you to book a calendar appointment, you may need to get, name, number, for that information for their CRM. You may need to get the time that they want to book. All of those things can be defined in the LLM, so it knows what information to extract. So it needs to extract their name, their phone number, right? You define that in what's called a tool call or a function call when you are working with an LLM. And we'll point that out later. All right, so in this presentation, I set up a simple AI voice agent to simulate someone calling in to ClueCon 2025. This, my product, this isn't a sales pitch or anything. This is fully back-ended by SignalWire on their voice AI product. So when I call in, everything is going to be on their infrastructure. There are things I do post-processing or application layer that are not SignalWire, but everything that we do on the phone telephony AI side is all controlled with SignalWire. So like I said, not going to get that button right. All right, so let's just do a quick call. The things we had said that you can do with this AI: you can register for the conference, you can submit a presentation, or you can ask a question. So let's do a quick demo here.
Hello, thank you for calling about ClueCon 2025. How can I assist you today? Are you looking to register for the event, submit a presentation application?
Yeah, I need to register for the event.
Great, I can help you with that. Can I have your first and last name, please?
Yeah, it's Justin Massey.
Thank you, Justin Massey. Next, could you please provide your phone number?
Yeah, it's 470-316-6952.
Thank you. I have your phone number as 470-316-6952. Do I have your permission to text this number?
Yes, you do, and I'm just going to give you some information so we can go through this a little more quickly. My t-shirt size is a large. I am not a student, so I just need a regular registration, and I am have no dietary restrictions. I just didn't want to wait. There's a lot of information to gather on a 30-minute demo.
Justin, just to confirm, I have your t-shirt size as
yes, that's all right.
No dietary restrictions.
Obviously, you wouldn't be doing it on a real call, but for speed, we can do it.
Confirming. Just to clarify, what is the name of your organization?
Oh, I'm with RelayHawk.
Thank you, Justin. I have your organization as RelayHawk. Now, I will submit your contact information and then proceed with your registration. Your contact information has been successfully submitted. Now, I will register you for the conference with a general ticket, no dietary restrictions, and a large t-shirt size. You are now registered for ClueCon 2025.
I'm going.
We will text you a link to pay for your registration shortly. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
That'll be it. Thank you. All right. So we're going to talk through 5 different things I kind of learned while building that, right? There are some things on there we can actually improve. And we'll talk about many of those. I do want this interactive, so please, if you have questions, raise your hand, just shout them aloud. I'm good with interaction here, so just please.
And I can run a mic so that people at home can hear.
Absolutely, we do have people on the line, so we'll anytime we have questions, please. First, there was something in there I didn't like about that conversation. I don't think that prompt very well instructed it to be prompted for speech to text. Because if you heard the AI agent say, may I have your number, please? I can't tell you the amount of times when it says, may I have a number, comma, please, that comma introduces a little bit of pause. And by putting that please there, that person will, if they're saying, may I have your phone number, please, that person may go ahead and start saying, yeah, my phone number is 470. And then they'll hear the please. And then they'll start the number over. It gets them in this like weird loop. And then the text-to-speech engine, the text-to-speech engine doesn't necessarily understand like what to do in that scenario. And it causes like this weird loop for the caller because they're like, should I be saying my area code now? And then after then, the LLM is just going to be confused with the dialogue. So if we looked at the transcript for that, let me hit this refresh button. I'm going to go to this. Yeah, so here we say, add this please. It can go into this weird loop of like saying, yes, Justin Massey, and then, oh wait, like that wasn't correct, and it'll just go back in this loop. Here is another thing that'll happen if you don't properly have your prompts written for speech to text. The LMs love to sometimes output in JSON. So it'll be like, I'm going to provide you a summary. Your summary, your information is Justin. Your last name is Massey. And when it reads this, OpenAI, if you're using OpenAI's text-to-speech, there's actually a bug where sometimes it'll say first name and then just jump to the last value because the colons kind of throw it off. So always, like you have to make sure your prompts are always outputting text like your first name is Justin, your last name is Massey, or you're going to get issues like that. And we've already talked about the commas. So you need to you can provide the LLM what's a good example and what's a bad example of it. So just simply saying, just changing that up, we'll fix that. So something that many of the providers do, if we look at these transcripts, SignalWire is going to provide you 2 different transcripts. They're going to provide you the live transcript, which is they're basically streaming you the information as it's coming through and being transcribed. They do this thing called barge detection to know that when you've barged in, they will stop talking. And if they misinterpreted that barge, they will remove a line from the transcript to make the transcript cleaner. However, what will happen is if the AI was going to say something like, we'll actually just take a look here. It asked all this information, but it did not get completed with this full sentence. But that's what the text-to-speech engine was going to say. So that's what is presented to you. So I recommend always doing another transcription at the end of the call. Don't trust the provider's transcript because there also may have been things that they said that didn't get into your transcript. So always have a final transcription that gives you the accurate information. Because for me, one thing we have is our customers will say, that's not, like, I'm reading the transcript and I'm listening to the recording and that's not what was said. So you want to just go ahead and get out of that. And then later, one of the tips is to run AI evaluations on the calls. You don't want to be running an AI evaluation on a transcript that is incorrect. So always Just run an extra one at the end of it. Also, another benefit of that is that because it's a recording, the transcriptions are actually going to be a little bit more accurate as well. Just because it's not having to do on-the-fly transcription, it can gather context from the beginning and the end of the call, so it can be a little bit more accurate. This was basically, if you had your provider transcript, maybe they said that, but there was some sort of issue. The actual words spoken may not have been exactly what they said. So one thing with AI, or if you were in a call center and you had a human there, and then there was a bug with the call flow or the call script, you'd have the human talking to their supervisor saying, "There's something wrong. There's something wrong with this script. This just doesn't make sense." Well, guess what? If you have a bad prompt, the AI is not going to tell you, "Hey, something's going wrong." So you could have days go by where you don't know there's an issue. So you should implement some sort of quality assurance after the call is done. I can show you at the end of the call how we do that and give you some ideas for things. I want to briefly talk about making sure that your conversation, your workflows are fully reliable. And then the bulk of this time, I want to spend talking about testing. Brian reached out to me yesterday and said, "Hey, there were some people asking about testing." So I want to talk, tip 5 is all going to be about testing. So I'm kind of blowing through these to get to that point. So the number of outages that OpenAI has and every LLM provider has is a lot, right? So yes, I don't have to worry about those outages necessarily on the voice side because SignalWire is handling that for me. They will fail over to Azure when OpenAI directly goes down. I don't have to worry about that part. I don't have to worry about the text-to-speech or the speech-to-text. I don't have to worry about any of that because SignalWire handle it. However, I do have a lot of other things I have to think about, and I'm going to talk briefly about those now. So I would really think about and draw a diagram out about how your state management's going to work. So a call may come in through SignalWire in my system, and when the SWML generates the call, it says, "Hey, we have a caller on the line." I'm going to mark that call as active. Now, the next step in that process is going to be switching from active to processing, then finally to be completed. But what happens if we don't get another webhook from SignalWire saying, "Hey, we have information," or "Hey, we've completed the call"? How do we get that information, right? Because that happens. We have some of our customers will. Their phone switches will make multiple SIP connections to SignalWire, and some of them will just drop. And then for whatever reason, we don't get a webhook back from SignalWire saying that. So we have to do some polling mechanisms to make sure that that call is still alive, or whatever. So you're going to need to think about this in depth. So I just had the example here. We had the state going to active, and we had these heartbeats. SignalWire sends debug API calls or function calls to you. You can use as a heartbeat, but if that call isn't, if you haven't received one of those within a minute, you can query their call log API to see, hey, is this still active or not? And then if you can also have, which is what I recommend, to have like the status webhooks that send to you, and that can also mark the call as complete. But that doesn't include all the information you need. So you may have to trigger a wait for another webhook to come in that has all the information. So a lot of these events can come in out of order. So remember, you're dealing with an event-driven system, and these are not guaranteed to come in order. So you need to handle all of these. I'm using Temporal to do all of this. This is a screenshot of it. Temporal has a cloud-hosted solution, and you can also run it on-premise as well. I don't know what their licensing is. I pay for their SaaS version, but they do have a on-prem version you can run with Cassandra or whatever. Now you'll see the call right now, the call gets initiated at second zero, and then we wait 60 seconds before we pull the SignalWire API to see if the call is still active or not. And then once the call, we notice the call was still active, we wait a little bit longer. We actually received there the post-prompt webhook, which is coming from SignalWire saying, here's the full transcript, here is all the information that was taken. And then after then, we fetch the call log details, we update the conversation, and then you see this wait for recording processing, which is another workflow that we run to do the transcription. This is actually the workflow, so we actually take that file from the recording from SignalWire. We copy that to an S3 bucket, depending on residency. So whether you need to put this in, EU, US, wherever you need to put it, you can put it there. You can do your transcription with DeepGram. But remember, these things can fail. So if a transcription fails, we need to retry it, right? We use Temporal to manage all of that for us. And once again, events can come out of order. So in that previous one, post-prompt came first, and this one, status complete, came first. So handling out of order events really important. Or the events may never arrive, so you need to handle that situation as well. Okay. Automation testing. So we just made that phone call at the very beginning of this, and that was, a regular attendee that wants to register for SignalWire. Well, guess what? There are a lot more situations in that flow that we could have handled. We had a student that was registering. We had someone that was asking a question on the FAQ. We had someone that was calling in to apply to be a speaker, asking a question that's not on the FAQ. Do you want to sit there and make these phone calls over and over and over to test all of these? And do you want to also pay for the telephony infrastructure to make all those phone calls? If you did have a voice-to-voice, if you had a robot calling it, you'd still be paying for all that telephony cost to test every single time you make a change to the prompt or an action or a function call. Because every single time you make a tiny tweak to the system prompt, how many of you have had this issue? Like you make a tweak and you're like, I wasn't expecting the change it made. See some heads nodding, right? It's not pleasant. So you need to have some sort of evaluation framework. So we define all the happy path scenarios for our customers. So we say, here are all the different happy paths. Let's start with those, and then we can handle our edge cases next. So if you've been in monitoring world, there's synthetics tests. You're just creating synthetics tests for these for your evaluations, or sorry, for your AI agents, and you can run all of these at once. And the way I do it, the way we've configured it, is that we have actually, I think I covered that in a minute. Yeah, so we define all the variables that a caller has. So when the AI asks for that information, the caller has that information to respond with. So we're creating a caller that just has all this information. You have to define a persona for that caller to be. So I'm using the Risen framework here. If you're not familiar, you can just search like Risen framework. It's a prompting framework, and it covers the role, the input data that you possess, the steps and goals of the whatever you're trying to achieve in this call, the phone call, the expected behavior and tone, and narrowing. So if you can define those pieces of information to be the simulated caller, you'll be in good shape. So let's show you what some of these things are. So this is the role section. So you're saying you're a natural sounding human, and then in one of those variables, you can define what your task description is. So you can say you are being this person, and your goal is to register for the conference. You're speaking to the operator, and everything should be formatted to be read by text to speech. You have your input data. We can kind of shift this around a little bit, but the next one is steps. So I have an information bank, that should probably actually be moved to the input data section. But this is like this is what you should do And one second, let's see if there's anything really interesting about calling out here. No, the expectations part, we talk about using like how do you want the persona to act? Do you want them to say simple yes or no answers, or do you want them to give long-winded answers? Because your callers are going to have both, and that may trigger the LLM to do something different. So you should probably have personas that do both. And then you're just, you're getting a multiplicative effect on the number of test cases you have to run by doing that. Narrowing it down, saying, keep your responses concise, ideally under 40 words. Read dates. Don't read it in the format, 2025-01-01, say January 1st. One thing you'll have to do is you'll have to define an in-call function, because if not, you're just going to get the AI talking to an AI, and it's never going to end. I also set a max turns on this, so I can say the maximum number of turns it should be is 20, 30, 40, so you don't just hit this endless loop, even if it fails to call the in-call function. So let me just skip through this really quick, see what I got. Okay. So earlier today, I ran all these simulations. So if I just click the general ticket, see if I'm still authenticated. Okay. This is entirely simulated. There is nothing here that this is not a real call. This is all simulated data. So at the end of this, we want to extract this information. So with our function calls and tool calls is how we're extracting the information. We've defined this function called submit contact information. So it submitted this information, and then when it comes to register attendee, we have this information. Now, the part I don't have implemented in the product yet, I have implemented on my computer because I've been running this locally for a while. You're going to need to define assertions here. And you may say, make sure that ticket type is general. But if most of this information is going to be exact, but some information may not be, and you need to say something like, as long as this is semantically close, do this. Or as long as it's semantically close, accept this as an okay answer. So if you said, I'm calling for a speaker bio, and I want my bio to look like this. If it's not exact, you don't want to fail on if it's close enough for that situation, because LLMs are generative. They're not going to be exact. So you need that. You also need another evaluation you may want to do. May not be on the values in the extracted information themselves, but you also want to do, hey, look over the entire transcript and see if they ask for the phone number 2 times, more than once, right? Because that may not show up if you extracted the information, but it would show if you looked over the entire transcript. So we're doing evaluations on the extracted data and also evaluations on the entire transcript itself. With that, you should be able to come up with a pretty good testing framework to test your agents so that when you make that, before you deploy that new system prompt, you've tested it. One thing, this only tests text to text, right? We're not testing anything about what is your latency, what's your time to first word, all these different things. Can it understand with background noise? Can it understand with if a person paused for 4 seconds in between giving their first 3 digits of their phone number and the last 7, right? So you can test that. I've been working with the guys at Hamming AI. They're building a pretty nice testing engine for testing actually voice to voice. So they do everything I talked about, but putting that together on the voice side. With that, that is my presentation. Here are the 5 points I made. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I would appreciate it. I can also send the deck to you on LinkedIn as well. I can share the system prompts and anything you have. Yes, questions?
Let me run a mic. There's a few. Oh, there you go. Boatman's over there. Well done.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much. Very, very good presentation. So the couple of things. I'm assuming SignalWire is changing out their LMMs every so once in a while.
So SignalWire, there are 3 models that are supported right now. 4.0 Mini, 4.1 Nano, and 4.1 Mini, and you can select in between those. And if there is a issue with OpenAI, they're going to fail over for you automatically. They are not necessarily changing out the LM underneath the hood because you would have everything would be very different.
Because you'd want to rerun those tests before a new LLM gets switched in.
That's correct.
Have you gone through that before? Have you been surprised by some LLM changing its underlying behavior on you?
Actually, when OpenAI had an outage and we switched to when OpenAI had an outage and we switched to Azure's version of OpenAI in your own cluster. I had some parameters I was adding in that were not valid OpenAI spec, and they did not error out on OpenAI, but when we switched over to Microsoft Azure's implementation, we had errors. So that was one issue we had.
All the more value in your testing suite. Okay, next, because you run a call center, do you have requirements for sentiment? Were you looking for sentiment? I don't know if your call center has value in measuring sentiment, because lots of call centers do. And I was wondering what you read on that and whether that was within the scope of what you could potentially build on top of SignalWire.
Yeah, our call centers that we work with run ancient technology, and they don't even have their stereo audio where like callers on one, and like their recordings are sentiment analysis horrible. So it's really hard for us to get a good metric read on it.
And then Dunder Muffin.
Oh yeah, Dunder Mifflin. That's The Office if you weren't familiar.
Okay, we've got a question here from Joseph.
Yeah. How do you protect against abuse, either prompt ejection or just people being jerks to the AI agent?
Good question. Something I didn't point out here is if you are, so I have some enums put in there. So like you can, one of our big use cases is employee call out lines. So an employee is calling out, you want to know you got their name, who's your manager's name, because then they're going to dispatch off of that. So we can, if you have sensitive data that you don't want to expose, we expose that through a function call rather than giving the data straight to the LLM. So that way, you have to make the function call to get that information out. So you can't just like drop every single record into my database of who's in that thing. So you can hide things behind function calls. I assume anything I put in the prompt is going to be abused. I'm a cybersecurity background, so like that's my thing. Is like I just assume whatever I give to it, it's going to be given. So I put other controls around it, and you could put in things like, hey, give me your, authenticate them a certain way, and now you have certain permissions that you've received, via that OAuth claim or whatever.
Thank you, Justin. Well, we've got another question over there. Boat, were you running away there? Well done, that man.
You talked about in your testing the call end parameter. Is that just for the testing, or is that also for production? I'm thinking of
SignalWire has that handled. You can run into scenarios if you don't have a proper closeout statement. The question is how does SignalWire necessarily know? I've thought about implementing my own in function, in call function that then returns SWML that says in the call. Haven't done that yet. My goal is always to just say goodbye at the end of it, and that's going to trigger SignalWires.
Yeah, I guess going beyond that, what if another AI agent calls yours, or somebody hangs up and it just leaves the line open, and you're getting charged for your
There's a
call?
duration, there's a max duration set. I have a lot of thoughts on that, whether you could look at it through streaming, whether you could actually just handle that internally. There's a couple of different ways to skin it, but we haven't had to do that yet. So thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, one more question just there, Boat, please. Thank you. And then we're going to be going into a break. So this is the last question. If people after this have got questions, then track that man down at the break and talk to him. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
For customers that have the AI trained on their FAQ, how do you control for responses that have hallucinations in them?
Yeah, most of our customers, they're more message-taking services than answering FAQs. So to be quite frank, I haven't had to deal with that too much. I would, if I were to test it today, I would run that simulation suite and test it and test it and test it, and then see if it's hallucinating. And then you could run another system prompt at the end of it that says, look at, that could be one of the evaluation criteria. Did it hallucinate? And that's just an evaluation criteria on one of your synthetics tests. That's how I test it.
That's also what RagStack is for. It'll keep it from doing that. So you give it a vector search, and it's only answering questions based on the data that comes from your vector database of your frequently asked questions. So there's that kills the hallucination completely.
Yeah, you could think of it just like a function call, right? I mean, it's a function to a RagStack that's like, hey, do you have this information? Yes or no? Give me the text to output.
Great stuff. Well, look, let's give a very big thank you to Justin here.